Hey guys, thank you for joining us. My name is Kinsey Blais and this is Plus, the show where you talk about some difficult topics. Alright guys, we're going to dive into it. So here we are with Alex and Diego. We were lucky enough to have a conversation about sexual assault. These are two individuals that have both experienced sexual assault in their life previously before being in a relationship with each other. So today we're going to be talking to them a little bit about their experiences and how they kind of got over it together and were willing to open up to a new person after being sexually assaulted. Alex and Diego, say hi to everybody.
Hey!
Hi there.
Okay, so Alex, me and Alex work together, so we do know a little bit more about the experience. However, I probably met Diego once or twice before.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So Alex, did Diego know about your experience before you guys started dating?
No. I didn't tell him until I think I hinted at it closer to like when we started dating, like beginning, but I hadn't told him the full story until just this past summer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somewhat recently, yeah.
Wow. And Diego, how did you start to tell Alex more about your experience?
I've actually always been pretty open in terms of any kinds of experiences I have. I'm not very shy about it. I think probably one of the probably really early on in our relationships, I've mentioned like ex-girlfriends or ex-girlfriends situations, and also like my stepfather has like not sexually abused me, but just physically abused me before. I've always been pretty open about that.
So growing up, you were physically assaulted before you were sexually assaulted in a relationship?
Okay, so let me start with this. So,
of course.
My dad moved back to Brazil, which is where my family is from, when I was 11. And then about when I was 12 or 13, my mom met my stepfather, I guess, ex-stepfather now. But, and then we lived with him for about 10 years, and then somewhat recently, just a few years ago, he's bipolar, so he made the decision of going off his meds and, being more aggressive and stuff, and he ended up taking that stuff out on me. It wasn't sexual in nature, it was more just aggressiveness.
Okay.
But during those 10 years, I was dating, let's call her Jay.
Okay.
And she was, I believe, she wasn't diagnosed, but I believe she was also bipolar, and she thought so too. And there were some weird situations, sexually, nothing too crazy, but definitely some weird things going on there. I don't think I've actually told you that story.
Now, a lot of people are uncommon by the male side of sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're comfortable with it, do you want to kind of explain how you were feeling during that time?
Yeah, actually, I think it's a weird thing to wrap your head around as a male, especially just like a, I guess, cis straight male, which I am. And at the time, I believe I was 16, 17. Okay. Like you're young, you're a teenager, you're not quite fully developed emotionally, sexually, or physically even, right? Yeah. So it's just weird to like kind of wrap your head around it at the time. So Jay was, she was a pretty aggressive personality, and at the time I was much more passive myself. But we were actually friends for a long time before we started dating. And as the relationship went on, we got more comfortable with each other, as tends to happen in relationships. But I feel like she was used to a lot more. She was kind of like a rebel, like covered in tattoos at 17, and smoking, drinking, like all that stuff, which I did too, but not to the same extent. Began to fight a lot about really just kind of trivial things that I think about it. And I definitely look back on it and think I could have handled it differently, but again, both of us were very young. There's some things I also can't really blame her for.
Of course.
However, yeah, there's a couple times, like I remember once, I don't remember if we were drinking or not, but she basically asked me, she wanted to kind of like role play me raping her.
Okay.
And it was kind of weird, like I had said no like many times because I was just like really uncomfortable with it. And eventually I was like, okay, fine, like just half-ass it, fine, whatever. She was like very persistent about it. And I also had known at the time that she had been sexually assaulted herself before.
Okay.
So I figured, to this day I don't really like know why she wanted to try that out. Maybe she wanted to practice something if she was in that situation again, like how she would get out of it or something. Like that's the only thing I can think of.
Like a survival technique.
Yeah, like,
yeah.
And she knew she was safe with me because like I wouldn't actually hurt her, but she wanted me to really go at it, like really try.
And that was kind of the first time she acknowledged her fascination with that.
Yeah, this was actually, I think, the craziest it got in terms of a sexual experience. So like I began to do it, but it was just really weird. She immediately, you know, went for a low blow, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
Just like immediately. Yeah. It wasn't like too hard or anything, but like I was already not into this, and then she goes for that, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm not doing this. This is really weird. And she just like kept trying to convince me to keep going for it. I was just like, no, I'm done. This is weird. Like I'm not about this, and like you seem like this is kind of a crazy situation. So I just put an end to it.
Okay, so your experience was more like being pressured into doing something sexually you had no interest in doing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Now, have you heard this story before, or have you heard it to this extent? Okay, wow. So, Alex, I know you were also with someone in a relationship where you were sexually assaulted. How old were you at that time?
I was 16 going on 17.
Okay, so same age, roughly. Okay.
Yeah. Guy was same age. My first red flag should have been that I met him at a rave.
Okay.
And things took off immediately from there.
Okay.
We both had gotten out of lengthy relationships, and I think we're just looking
for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it became more of an attachment thing. Like, because we had both been in relationships over 3 years, it was kind of like nice having somebody there.
Yeah.
It didn't start off weird. Like, he would get mad at little things. Like, if I took a wrong turn, like driving, then he would get upset, and I'd be like, okay, like, sorry. Which, you know, I do that a lot. But then it got more and more, and like he would start asking for money, and like if I didn't have money, he would take things. So he sold a lot of my own belongings. He took my debit card from me once, but he didn't know the PIN, so he couldn't use it.
He couldn't use it, yeah.
And then it became more so like if I embarrassed him, such as like he would have his friends over, if I said something stupid, then like he would burn me. Like I told you, like he would burn me with cigarettes, he would burn me in many places. I still have one scar on my thumb, which is like if I'm having a bad day, I have to cover it because I can't look at it.
Yeah, it's a trigger.
It is a trigger. The one night, I can't remember what I did, but he had me choked against the wall for a while. And then I told Diego this one recently. I still haven't told my family or anything.
Okay.
So the one night we were all hanging out, his friends were there. I had one drink, not even a full thing, a cooler, and I blacked out. I woke up in the morning covered in blood, and I remember screaming at some point during the night.
Yeah.
But I don't know what happened because I was done. And I knew there was like 5 or 6 other guys there, so.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that is definitely an event.
It was, and the hardest thing too was because we were dating.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure where to go with that.
Yeah, you didn't know who to tell, right?
No.
Okay.
And like I know now, like, because I go to counseling to help with my anxiety and everything, that like I know if I tell them, they would have probably said like you should go to the police, and it's like personally I don't want to do that because I already know his life is screwed up, and like I know that at some point he's gonna get himself in there one way or another, and I don't want to be that reason.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like I'll never forgive him.
Yeah.
And I don't think he will either. Yeah.
So after this experience, Did you find it hard to open up to anyone else after?
Yeah, for me for a long time. I shut down. During the relationship, I did tend to push away a lot of my friends. Like there were some he just didn't like, so I stopped hanging out with them.
Because you were his property.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the day we broke up, I was actually in school, and it was because I found out he was cheating. I said something. He's like, you know what? I didn't want him to be in this relationship in the first place. Like blah blah blah. And then I immediately I took it back. I took it back. I didn't want the pain. I didn't want any of that. And one of my best friends came out and she found me and she's like, this is good. This is good.
Yeah.
It's okay. And so I hung out with my 2 best friends for the longest time. Didn't really go over anything.
Okay. And Diego, how was it opening up to someone after being in a relationship as dysfunctional as your past relationship?
It's funny because I really have to dig to remember the time right after breaking up with Jay.
Okay.
I remember the breakup well. We had actually talked about, I brought it up with her a few weeks prior to breaking up, and I said, look, we're fighting all the time. We used to be really good friends, and we started dating, and everything was even fine after that for a while, but then now we're fighting, and she threatened to kill herself many times, and all this stuff. It was a crazy roller coaster of emotions every time we were together, I'm not one to believe that just stay in this, crappy situation. This is terrible. We have to put it out there, and then if we can fix it, let's try to fix it, which is what I proposed at the time. And I said, look, let's try to wipe the table here and just put everything behind us and just move forward now and let's try to be good and have this relationship work.
Yeah.
And we were really good for another 2 weeks or so after that conversation. But then there was another fight. She was also really suspicious of everything I did. And it's funny because the things you're talking about, your ex, a lot of the things she also did or exhibited. For example, I also have a smiley burn mark from her as well.
Wow.
This wasn't necessarily forced.
Okay.
It was, she was someone that would, I don't remember if she cut or not, I'm not quite sure on that, but she definitely had a lot of smiley burn marks from lighters.
Okay.
And I don't know, I was kind of rebellious at the time, so she asked me, when she went to do it, she put it on and it burned for a bit. I was like, okay, that's enough. And she just kept going. And I said, stop, pull it off. She was sitting on top of me doing it, so I had to push her off. She was tiny, so it wasn't.
But she still had no concept of the word no.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
She was literally, very clearly, purposely not stopping when I asked her to stop. I was like, crap, I hate this. Why did I do that? That was so stupid. It was so stupid. I'm really hard on myself for easy little mistakes like that. And I mean, that's pretty big, easy mistake.
Self-harm is always a big mistake.
And I've never self-harmed really, so that's not really me.
Of course.
So what you said as well about, and you said as well about him seeing you as his property. I think Jay had a similar mindset on me because she was always suspicious of what's on my phone and am I talking to any other women or girls or all this stuff, and it just turned into this huge fight out of nowhere. And I said, look, I'm done. This is it. At this point, you've shown a pattern of being good for a bit and then going back to the way things were. So then at that point, I'd given her a couple chances and I saw the pattern and I said, this is not going to change. And we were in her room at the time. And at first, I don't think she thought I was serious, but I made it very clear, I was speaking very clearly and concisely, and I'm going to leave, and we're done. And at that point, as I was walking to the door, she said, if you walk out that door, don't come back, because we're done. And I said, yeah, that's what I want.
Yeah.
And as soon as I closed the door behind me, she immediately started screaming at the top of her lungs, clearly super upset. I could hear she had a lot of posters in her room, and I could hear probably tearing them down, throwing
a hysterical
physical
reaction.
physical upset, like she needed to break stuff, but I just kept walking and I left. I grabbed the bus and I just went home at that point. And she called me like later that night, and I just, because she was very sad on the phone, she was crying and stuff. It was very tempting to be like, okay, like let's keep going, but like I had to stick to the facts, which was the pattern. Like it just kept going back, and I was like, this is an abusive relationship. Like, what have you learned about other people in abusive relationships and what you should do in that situation? And I just applied that to myself. It's like, suddenly when you're trying to leave, they try to bring you back in,
try to pull you back in,
and then they hold you there
because it's an emotional hold, right?
There's always a reason to stay.
Now, with mood swings, for both of you guys, did you notice that your ex-partners were on like any medications for the mood swings?
Mine was supposed to be,
Okay.
but did not.
And did you ever try and support him to take the medication?
Yes, because he knew that I suffered from a personality disorder caused by hormone fluctuation.
Okay.
So I take hormone stabilizers, which help bring everything back to the center, and I explained that to him, but he's like, people who go on medication are weak, like that's stupid, like, I'm like, it's not, because I actually feel way stronger now than I did before, so.
Yeah, and everyone's different. So like obviously you're gonna feel stronger because you're more in control of your emotions.
Right, yeah.
And that way you can kind of control what's happening in your life better.
Exactly.
I guess maybe he was trying to talk you out of that because he wanted to more control you.
I would assume so.
You had a very, very traumatic experience near the end of your relationship. What was one of the ways that you could advise other people going through this kind of relationship to cope after the math, after everything's finished, done and over with, and they've gotten into a safe place, and now they're just working on repairing themselves? Can you offer any advice?
Yeah, there's still a big thing I struggle with too, is when I look back on it, I see myself as being so stupid and naive. But you need to know, like, it's not your fault. Like, it never was your fault in the first place. You were there, and again, you're in a cycle. They have you, they know your weaknesses, and they feed off your weaknesses, and they just make you feel bad and bad and bad. So you just gotta rediscover yourself as who you are on your own, not with somebody. You gotta look back at like your strengths, and you gotta make them stronger. And from what they did to your weaknesses, they have now become strengths.
Now, I did a little research before this, and psychologists are saying that sexual assaulters or rapists, or whatever you'd like to call them, it's not about the sex. It's about the power and objectifying their victim or their object that they're using. So obviously, you can't blame yourself because you had no control over any of it, right? So what are some of the ways that you've noticed yourself change as a person after you have already finished coping? Or have you finished coping? Or do you still think that you need some emotional growth to fully get over the experience?
I think I've gotten better, but I'm still working on like making like decisive decisions, like not falling into what somebody else wants. I'll suggest something else as opposed to just saying no. That's the biggest thing for me, because I had no say before. So finally being able to take some control back has really helped.
I did learn a lot from that one relationship, to be more aware of the relationship as it's happening, and to be more assertive in how I feel. I don't want there to be any miscommunication or misunderstandings that could have been easily fixed if I had just said that. And I do that with Alex too. Just because I suggest show A to watch on Netflix, if you don't want to watch it, just say no, I don't feel like that today.
I guess that's just like every couple's relationship.
but I don't want to be making all the decisions. Like, I want you to do that as well. Like, it's a relationship. I feel like you're still like a little shy, but even since the beginning of our relationship, you've grown so much. I can tell. And like one of the biggest points of that was her telling me the story of that, because you had been wanting to tell me for a while. I could tell that there's like something on your mind, and I feel like after you told me, and I think you even said like you felt better, right? Like you, and like of course, like I don't judge you for any of that stuff. I was happier that you told me, because it made me understand you better as a person and like where you're coming from.
So how did you guys react to learning this? Like, this is something that you found out, like, in the middle of your relationship, not even in the beginning.
But I mean, like, I told him that I had been abused. I just never felt like, I'm like, is this something that's too strong to put forward at the beginning?
Like a detailed description,
yes,
right?
and then as the time went on, I'm like, I really gotta tell him, like, it's going on, like, this relationship is actually strong, like, I gotta tell him. But then it was more of a, like, I wanted to prepare him for what I had to say.
Okay.
And once I knew he was ready, I had to prepare myself.
Yeah.
We actually talked, was this earlier today or yesterday? We had like a little conversation about this actually, because we were kind of preparing for this. And
Oh, I think that was yesterday.
Like a prep session, let's go.
Yeah, well, it just kind of came up naturally. Like early on, she said, you know, I was like in an abusive relationship, and I said, and it's funny because I kind of inferred that she meant there was like a sexual abuse there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I wasn't surprised when I found out that when she confirmed that, because I know a lot of women in my life have been raped or sexually assaulted. So like, I hate that it was like a you too moment. It's like, it almost like it wasn't a surprise for me. I just hated that I already kind of knew that's what you meant. You're still the same person from before you told me the story. In fact, you're the same person, but now you just seem like a stronger person to me because you were strong enough to tell me that story.
Oh, did that make you guys understand each other more?
Definitely.
Yeah.
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 Because you kind of see like why things are triggering with each other, why certain actions are kind of putting them off.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, if you're going to be exhibiting the same kind of behavior from your past relationships, that other person's going to build up a wall because that's what they're used to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to like take away your closeness. Right. Now it's sick. What is the percentage? It's like 1 in 3 people, you know, have been sexually assaulted or abused.
Mm-hmm.
So that's insane. We all know at least 3 people.
I feel like I know more. Even just whether they're acquaintances or someone I met like once or twice, or close friends or ex-girlfriends or current girlfriend, whatever, like, yeah, it's a terrible statistic or truth, you know?
Before we finish, I just want to ask you guys one more question.
Mm-hmm.
Super sweet, super honest. Do you feel like you are a different person after the fact? Or do you feel like you are the same person, just modified?
I'm definitely a different person.
Yeah.
Because like I go to school for criminology because of my experience. I want to help the people that don't realize they need it. Because like for me, at the beginning, like you get a sense, but as time goes on, you don't see it anymore. Like for you, it's not clear. So like I want to be able to step in and be that party that's like, hey, hold on, this isn't right. You need to refocus on what is going on here, and we got to get you out of this.
So it's really changed your priorities.
It has.
Yeah.
For me, I would say I'm the same person, but what was the word you said? But
Modified?
Modified, yeah. For sure. I think that's that base person is still there. The same nice, like mild-mannered person, but just more assertive and not assertive, but more
emotionally aware.
Emotionally aware and open about myself.
Well, guys, that was great. Honestly, such a diverse topic because again, 1 in 3 people have been sexually assaulted. So there's so many different stories, so many different scenarios that people have come into. This is only 2 stories of that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. This was Plus. My name is Kinsey Blais, and I hope you all have an amazing day.